Or well, how about I'll make a phone call, or we'll play a phone call.
Okay.
Because I mentioned at the top of the program we're going to talk about wrestling collectibles. I said last week here on the experience that at Heritage Auctions, an old Dallas office championship belt is coming up, or is actually underway now for the auction at Heritage Auctions. And so we've got today Tony Giese from Heritage Auctions on the program. I actually recorded this phone call earlier because Tony's on location with another big sports event, but he took a few minutes to talk with us about not only this championship belt going up for auction at Heritage, but also just wrestling collectibles in general, and flummoxed me with some news that I was not prepared for. So if we've got that recording, maybe we can pipe that in now over the pipe organ and let the people hear Tony Giese from Heritage Auctions. All right, we are on the phone with Tony Giese from Heritage Auctions. And Tony, I've told the people last week on the program about the championship belt that's being auctioned at Heritage right now. As a matter of fact, I thought the sale started April 20th, but it actually started today as we speak, but it goes for a few more weeks. So everybody still has a chance to get involved in this. But you had called me, and thank you for being on the program, by the way. I'll let you speak.
It is an honor to be with you. I watched you growing up in northern Wisconsin, and if you'd have told me that I'd be interviewing with Jim Cornette, I would have laughed like there's no way. So to me, it's such a treat for me.
Well, see, and Tony, thing is, I hate to pop your bubble, but I didn't grow up in northern Wisconsin, so it must have been some other guy completely.
I did, and I watched you Saturday night, and I cannot believe that I am actually interviewing with Jim Cornette. So for me, it's unbelievable.
Well, they say Wisconsin is America's dairyland, and I concur wholeheartedly. Every time I've ever crossed a state line into Wisconsin, I've taken a big whiff and said, "Smell that dairy air." But anyway, so you called me a couple months ago. You'll probably never call me again after this program. And you said, "Jim, I've got something here that someone has submitted that you probably would be the one to ask about this." And it turns out, as I mentioned last week on the show, it is one of the old American Tag Team Championship belts that was used in the late 70s out of the Dallas, Texas office. Fritz von Erich. The modern fans know it as World Class Wrestling. This belt was used for the few years preceding when they rebranded themselves as World Class in the early 80s when they got the syndicated television deal. And it's one of the old Nikita Malkovich belts. And I love those. I mentioned, the NWA World Tag title belts that Crockett used, that Midnight Express held in 86, and the late 70s WWF Championship belt that Superstar Graham had. And so many of those classic 70s belts were made by Nikita Malkovich. And so we started tracking down the history of the thing. But from your end, without divulging any, trade secrets or anybody's confidentiality, Heritage has a great reputation. People bring them various items from different fields. But how did you get contacted about this?
So somebody did an inquiry with the belt, and any wrestling stuff they always give to me. You were the first person that I thought of because I didn't know. And when I thought NWA, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, because I saw the different countries, on the belt. But you were the first person that I thought of, and you got back to me and said, you gave us the information on it, and I actually went down to Houston to pick this up when I did a show there, and it's in great shape. There's some wear to it, of course, as there's going to be, but the lady who had it, easy to deal with, just super nice. Her family was involved in wrestling, and that's how she got it. She had no idea the value of it, and you were so gracious in giving us your estimation on it, and were so helpful on dating it, because I had no idea that it was from, Fritz in the late 70s. I had no idea on that, and you were so helpful with it. So,
Well,
I mean, it's a cool piece.
One of the reasons why it's in such good shape is because they didn't use it for very long. It was only in use for I think about 3 years before they had to change the branding. But as we went back and looked, as soon as I saw American Tag Team title, I said, okay, the most noted American Tag Team title belt or championship in the U.S. was from Dallas. The Midnight Express held it in '85.
Sure.
And so then I started looking back, and apparently, for all the listeners, what happened was in the '60s, in the out of the Dallas office, the top tag team title was the American Tag Team title. And then, for whatever reason, and this may have been lost to history, but changing bookers or Fritz had a different idea or whatever, for a lot of the '70s, their main championship was the Texas Tag Team title. And when you look back, the Texas tag belts were also Nikita Milkovich belts, and it's so funny because I was talking to you when we were discussing this originally. All of these championship belts were not custom made from scratch. Every design, every plate, the belt makers would reuse different designs, different molds, and then customize the name or whatever. But so the American Tag Team Championship still has the side plates, has like the flags of Arabia and Italy that the World Tag Team belts had. But you never got that the fans never got that close, right? Where they could really just study it, and it looked so great on television.
See it, and then you could, yeah.
Because my NWA, well, I was just got my NWA World Tag Team title belts. I got a replica set of. If you see, he dolled them up with a lot of little bells and whistles that you could fasten to the plate to make it look intricate. The world belts have a little quarter-sized replica of the state of Texas just randomly placed on the main plate on the side. It's just, but they look really cool. And the point is that apparently in about 1978, that's when David and Kevin Von Erich had broken into business, Fritz's sons. And if you go back and look, and I encourage anybody can go back or Google the wrestling title histories on the internet. If you're looking at the Dallas World Class office, you go back to the '70s, tag team titles, Texas tag team title. Then the American tag team title was reinstated in 1978. And apparently the final match to determine the new champions was David and Kevin Von Erich against Dory and Terry Funk. And obviously Fritz was, an important enough figure in Texas wrestling and wrestling in general that he was able to call in a favor like that to have the two former world champions come in and put his sons over. And now they are the American Tag Team Champions. And this is what we believe this belt from the set of belts that would have been used for the next 3 years as the American Tag Team title. And we talked about the history. Bruiser Brody held that title at point. Gino Hernandez, I believe, was involved. And the tag team belts, it was always the first one out of the belt bag. So whoever was champion at some point or another wore both belts. They weren't like assigned individual belts.
Right.
But it's a cool piece of history. And you can see it's obviously ring used because there's sweat and the sweat stains on the leather at the top and bottom. And, a few bends in the edges where you'd fold it up and put it in your bag. But it's a really nice piece. And how can the people now, I've said I blew the on sale date or the start date of the auction, but how can people get involved in this if they want to just even view it or read about it or potentially put a bid on it?
Yeah, they can go to ha.com and just type in wrestling belt, and it'll be the first thing that pops up, and then they can view the item. They can view the photographs, the write-up on it, and it's in really good shape for something 45 years old. But it's a really cool belt, and just the design of it, and it's got the red leather on it. It's just an incredible piece of wrestling history. And we expect it. I think we have an estimate of 10,000 on it. So the opening bid will be 2,500. And, it's such a cool piece. And again, without your help, we would have not known how to really date this thing. So you were really, really helpful in this whole process. So I can't thank you enough.
Again, it just happened to be, as soon as I saw the picture, because that happens to be, and Brian and I have talked about it on the program several times. We talk about championship belts. Overall, those Nikita Molkovich designs were some of my favorite because they looked good on television and they looked like a prestigious championship belt, and they had weight to them. When we carried those, or I carried, that was part of my job as manager and bag carrier for the Midnight Express. I carried both of the NWA World Tag Team belts on top of my carry-on bag through airports and wherever we went for the 7 months we were champion. And 35 years later, my right shoulder is still 2 inches lower than my left shoulder, because those things weighed 20, 25 pounds apiece. Well, you've held that one that you've got.
Yeah, they're
Imagine
heavy. They are heavy. Yeah, they're very heavy, and they're very, they're sturdy. They're well made. And my goodness, that's a great story, because I was surprised when I first held it. The quality of it is so good. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, and that's one thing about the modern belts. The replicas look as nice as the belts that the promotions use these days, but they're all a little lighter and a little more modern looking, and they don't have that 70s vibe to them. You can see superstar Billy Graham holding one of these up, or the Midnight Express or whoever. But hey, what I've done some stuff with Heritage, as everybody knows, over the last year with the Wrestling All-Stars trading card sets that I found in the vault. And those things are always hot. But what are some of the other wrestling collectibles you've seen or are looking at or seeing these days people are interested in?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a pretty sizable jump in all of wrestling, as far as autographs, Type 1 photos, original photos, ring worn stuff. The ring worn material is so hard to find, because wrestlers, it was a lot of times they would keep them, and it's just, they're so limited, and they display so well, like on a mannequin. Think of some of the robes, the Macho Man robes, of course, Ric Flair robes, the ring worn stuff. There's a great, a lot of people are trying to find it. It's hard to find, but we got a really cool autograph. We got a Jean Ferret, Andre the Giant, signed 8x10 from Edward Carpentier's collection. And, Andre, very tough autograph. He would sign autographs, but, around 85, 86, he kind of stopped signing and didn't want to be bothered with it. So to find a real Andre autograph, it's difficult. To find a Jean Ferret from the 70s is virtually impossible. And we have one that was consigned.
I was just going to say that would have been a 2-year window where he would have signed that name anyway, right? 2 or 3 at most.
Yeah. It would have been like early 70s. And it's, he would sign, but it's just nobody thought they'd be worth money. And now, I mean, this one here it's got a 5,000 estimate, but, Andre is kind of the holy grail as far as wrestling fans are concerned.
Well, now hold on here a second. Now that you brought that up, because I don't have a Jean Ferret, and those things are, as Aunt Lola would say, scarcer than hen's teeth. But, and by the way, you've seen it. Does Andre, for a guy with fingers the size of Polish sausages, does he not have incredible penmanship?
He does. That's a very good point. He's got a gorgeous signature. And even like the Andre the Giants and the Andres, he had a very nice autograph.
And especially the big decorative
I got a John Ferret in Toronto. What's that?
The big decorative A that he would do.
Absolutely.
But that's what I was going to say. I have my Wrestling World centerfold of him holding the Golden Greek Mike Pappas in his arms, and autographed to me, and Andre the Two Jimmy, Andre the Giant. What do I need to do estate planning on this thing now? Should this be under glass?
Yeah, I mean that's probably a $10,000 autograph.
The fuck? It's hanging on my fucking wall. I just had the goddamn insulation people walking by a $10,000 fucking.
It's a $10,000 autograph. I mean, I got lucky when I got my Jean Ferret. I was up in Toronto for a show, and a guy had it, and I didn't know he was Jean Ferret in the 70s. And I'm like, that's Andre, but that's not his name. I had to look it up, and then I ended up buying it, and it's in my collection. But, Andre 8x10s, they've gone up considerably in the last 3 or 4 years because everybody wants them. He's the one. Him and Bruiser Brody's the other one that nobody has. And those are the two, in my opinion. I mean, it took me, 15 years to get a Bruiser Brody autograph because he was just, in character a lot of times. And it's not that he was a jerk or anything, but he just didn't sign a lot of things. So, we've seen the wrestling autographs really go up in value because, some of them are very, very limited.
Well, and by the way, my Andre is an 11x17. It was a color centerfold. So
whoa, are you serious?
I'm going to get a velvet rope. I'm going to get a velvet rope to mark off that section of the house. But anyway, all right. Well, Tony, you're on location at a prestigious event, so we appreciate you taking a couple minutes out. But tell the people again one more time on the American Tag Team Championship belt from the Dallas office, late 70s, as we've discussed earlier. It's the Heritage Auction Spring Sports Auction that the belt is a part of, but they can go to where and do what?
Yeah, they can go to ha.com, and the belt will be on our website. If anybody ever has a question or anything they ever want to talk about wrestling, my office number is 214-409-1997. And my goodness, I would love to talk wrestling collectibles if anybody wants to ever talk about it because it's fun. I enjoy it. I still enjoy it.
You have just given your office number to over 1 million people.
That is, I love talking wrestling. I collect wrestling, so we could talk wrestling collectibles. I'll talk to anybody. Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm sure the folks will respond, Tony. And when does this thing close down? As I said, I blew the on sale date, but when does the auction close? They got to shit or get off the pot, as Mama Cornette would say. By what time?
They have 27 days to bid on this auction. So let me get it is.
Thinking. What's that?
It's May 17th. It's May 17th is when the auction ends.
May 17th. See, the email you sent me said May 12th. I'm beginning to believe that there's a problem with our community. What we got here is a failure to communicate. All right. Well, folks, jump in on this. Get the belt, wear it around the house, whatever. Tony's got kids to put through school. And Tony, we appreciate you being on the program. And I will be in contact with you probably privately, potentially, about that. I love the autograph I got the first time I met Andre. I'm not sure I love it $10,000 or $12,000 worth.
Jim,
we'll see
you're
what
right.
happens.
It is May 12th. I'm sorry. You're right on that date. It is May 12th.
You're dismissed. Brian, cut the cord.